Hello everyone, my name is the SeaTactics, and today we are covering episode 2 of Angolmois' Record of Mongol Invasion, I believe is what the English title would be called. And this episode, just to start off, was incredible. I really liked the last episode, even though it had a lot of its faults, and it could have went either way for me. But this episode has completely sold me on the idea of this series. This series, to put it simply, is underrated. It is, to me, the definition of, or is an example of an anime where you don't judge a book by its cover. I see a lot of people judging it by its CGI and use of that in its promotional video, but we're 2 episodes in, and the CGI is barely noticeable. The art style fits the anime perfectly, and the CGI that is in this series is pretty good, for all things considered. But we're going to save the rest of that for later in this episode, but definitely right now, as it stands, I would 100% recommend Angolmois. It's incredible. So with that being said, let's get into episode 2. And episode 2 of Angolmois begins with a sort of setup before we get to our opening. In the 13th century, a nation took control and caused destruction throughout Eurasia. That nation was the Mongol Empire, and hundreds of years later, people would say that Mongolia was Angolmois. Whatever that means. I don't know. We then see a clarification of Kuchi's flashback from last episode. What are you doing, kitty? My cat's bothering me right now in the middle of this video. I'm not sure why. He wants something. The princess reminds Kuchi of a young girl from his past, and he wishes that he didn't remember her. Kuchi is then informed that he is to be at the strategy conference for the Mongol invasion problem. I really love this clarification of who that little girl was. I believe it's this guy's daughter, or just someone he was really close with, a child, he cared about or whatever. Because last episode, for a moment, I thought it was the princess, because they kind of looked a little similar in the facial areas. So, it may turn out to be a twist where it's like, yes, the princess is his daughter. Which, to be honest, they could definitely pull that off, I think. And, I wouldn't be okay with that. Or, I would be okay with that. It's like, not like I wouldn't be okay with that, because later in the episode, they confirm her age, and her age is 17. She's rather young. At this conference, the ruler of Tsushima basically says that the Mongols will ignore them, and everyone pretty much agrees that they're out of danger. But Kuchi knows much better, and that Tsushima is in danger from the Mongols, and they're just foolishly ignoring the problem. We also get some development. The princess's father is kind of a dick. He calls her own daughter princess and generally looks at her as a kind of an item, or in some cases a problem in some ways. And immediately seeing this scene, there's a couple times throughout this episode I felt I was sorry for the princess, but in this case, I definitely felt sorry for her. But, like I said, not all that much, as we'll see later, her being kind of a brat. But other than that, I was so angry how they simply ignored the problem, and they were just like, oh, it's going to pass over. It's going to be fine. It's like, no, it's really not going to be fine. You have the Mongols coming to attack you. You have a guy who is experienced in this kind of thing, and ignoring the guy, throwing the guy out, which happens right after this scene. It's just rather foolish on their part to ignore it, and the invasion happens in this episode. So, it was, they couldn't have really done anything, maybe saved their townspeople, but they ignored the problem. Because of that, it cost them quite a bit. It cost them the ruler's life. The king's life, whatever you want to call him.
猛虎はこの対馬を素通りする。は？そうだな、松木の女子。
えい、猛虎軍には私の祖国、高麗の兵も多くいます。
Kuchi is then thrown out of the conference in a rather comedic way, and then he makes a sort of map with dirt with the help of villagers to understand the layout and how the Mongols would attack the little town they have in Tsushima. Then Kuchi is interrupted by an old rival from years ago, Shoni Kagesuke. I'm probably butchering that. He tells Kuchi that he is providing reinforcements that should arrive in 7 days so that he wouldn't have to fight this battle alone. He then gives him a blade from Lord Yoshitsune, who made the Gike style, which was introduced in the first episode, and asks him if he'll be able to hold down Tsushima while he's preparing this army, basically. This was a cool scene. I mean, this pretty much confirms that you know, with his team, that he'll have to fend off the Mongols with basically scrap soldiers for days, for a whole week. And, you know, as we see at the end of this episode, you know, Tsushima is not left in a good place with this invasion from the Mongols. I also love this guy, Kagesuke. I love his character. He seems like a super badass, more so than Kuchi, who, honestly, he seems like a super badass already. And then Kagesuke comes out, and he's just like, yeah, I'm even more of a badass than you are. And he's such a cool character. And he's, you know, he just comes around and says, you know what, I believe you. I don't believe any of these people here who are, you know, ruling over this place. You know, you are right. You know, it's been 2 years since we've met. We were rivals with our two clans warring against one another. And and he promises him a whole army. I love that. That's such a cool scene, and it really sets the stage that, you know, these next 7 days are going to be hell. And it really, you know, gives the audience's expectations a nice little kick, because you know, this is going to be a pretty violent anime, all things considered. I mean, the first episode you have somebody's head being decapitated. So I'm really excited for this battle and for this war, and with the great animation in this anime, I think they could pull off something really well here. The princess then shows up and then basically seduces Kushi into staying and defending Tsushima, which makes this scene hilarious and sad. Hilarious because he was obviously going to stay anyways, and sad because she felt she had to seduce him in the first place, and goes way overboard, saying her heart will burst and that she hopes he'll stay forever. Of course, he agrees. I mean, look at her, wouldn't you? And I mean, her seducing was pretty seductive, but that smile afterwards, it seemed like it's definitely developing this character for her, that she's rather bratty, that she can, you know, just, you know, flaunt her looks and get what she wants. And I think, you know, I think that's the case. I think she definitely can get whatever she wants. She convinces, you know, him with this, you know, with this obvious. It was so obviously, you know, she was acting. She was going for an Emmy. So, you know, it fooled him, and it was that obvious. So, and this scene is just rather telling of the princess's character. I mean, she thinks that she can boss people around with ease. She's really bratty. She's really only thinking about herself and the people she cares about a lot, and getting her way and her group. She's kind of almost subtly a bully to the people that are below her, which I find, you know, obviously, you know, she's being a dick, but I find that a rather interesting way to develop this princess character, because I think as this show goes on, you know, with her father dying in the end of this episode, I think she's going to have a rude awakening. And I think throughout this whole series, I think one of the more interesting characters is going to be the princess, not because I think they're developing a romance around the two main characters or anything, but just her learning about, you know, life and how hard it is and stuff like that, and her growing up, basically, almost like a coming of age kind of thing for her, but it's obviously not a coming of age story. I really like that. I really like that kind of thing they're playing with the princess. It's just, they could easily develop this into something pretty cool. And pretty easily, may I add. They don't need to put a lot of work into this. It's kind of already naturally set up with the way princess-type characters work anyway. So, I'm okay with seeing more of it, to be honest. More of this kind of princess archetype. It's an interesting character. It's always fun to see those kind of characters develop and be like, I was so wrong, I was such a dick, and now I'm not. I'd rather have that than something awful. So.
ああ、わかった、いるよ。
本当か？
まあ、姫君の頼みとあってはな。
たわいもない。所詮は坂東の蛮族。
They then get word that the Mongols have landed, and the worst indeed happens. The thing they were told to expect and foolishly ignored happens. Now all gathered and moving the people to a safe location, the princess comes around and expresses her desire to help and fight alongside the army. I don't know what you would call it. But her father pretty much lays a hard smack onto her. Right across her face, and basically denies her request, all to keep her safe. And finally, through this scene, once again, gonna gush on the princess a little bit. Wow, phrasing. Okay. Finally, we see a hint of like a heart of gold from Tehuri, who is the princess Tehuri. I don't know what these characters' names are yet. I'm learning them. While also at the same time developing her bratty persona. So we don't see it much, but this scene happens, and she comes in and she's like, I want to fight because I can, because I'm so prideful, because I am the daughter of the king of Tsushima, or whatever, overlord guy, ruler man, and I, by God, I'm gonna fight this fight because I'm great. Ain't I great? And she just, you know, she gets she gets smacked really hard, and gets really, honestly, you know, put in her place, so to speak. And she's basically told to, you know, go back. And once again, the guy is kind of a dick. I can see where he's coming from, though, where he's like, I don't want my daughter to die in this brutal war. She's gonna probably be in this war anyways. But I can see where she's coming from, where he's coming from. But the best part about this is that she has kind of a heart of gold. It's just coming out in weird ways right now. She obviously cares about her people. She obviously cares about the place she grew up in. She cares about generally everyone that's there. And while, yeah, she does use and abuse people often that are kind of strangers, she just has a weird way of expressing it. I think that's honestly because of the way she's been treated probably throughout her life, you know. She's got a lot of weight on her shoulders. She's the princess, after all. And so because of that, it's really leading to a very interesting character. But moving on, then before the battle begins, the king guy gives Kushi sacred armor that is like hundreds of years old, and he believes that with that armor he can help protect Tsushima, and he's trusting him. The battle then begins, and it doesn't go well at all. A lot of the citizens are killed. The king guy dies at the very end of this episode, and he's basically speared by a half dozen men, and generally after that, Tsushima is kind of left in a bad state. I'm really excited though for the next episode to see the armor. That's probably going to be really cool, the design for that. Can't wait. And the old man dying, that was a really good scene. He killed someone. I think his son died. Yeah, his son was killed, and because his son was taking him to safety, and he gets surrounded by all these spearmen, and he just looks at all of them and he's just like, I fought enough, I'm done. And he just goes out the most painful and badass way. He's just so tired of this crap. He's too old. He's done. And so he takes his bow and he leaves. I guess. He exits stage left. Very, very cool scene. Positives from this episode. Once again, the historical setting. It is really intriguing. I love it. This is probably the last week I'm going to put this as a positive, though. But know that every week that I watch this, the historical setting is the best part of it, by far. Princess Teori's development. She's a very interesting character. I love her heart of gold while still having her bratty persona. And I can't wait to see her character develop throughout the series. Kagesuke, we're probably not going to see him much throughout the rest of the series. But his backstory had me intrigued. I like how they were clan rivals initially. Our two main one of our main characters and him. He's a badass character. I like him. He's so cool. And another positive is the animation. The animation was even better in this episode than what we saw in our first episode. I thought that was really cool. I think they may have been saving a little bit of budget from that first episode, because that first episode feels so different from the second episode, in my opinion, just in terms of animation and art and setting. It just looks and feels different, and I like that. Negatives. I'm probably going to say this every freaking week, because I hate it. The screen filter. Please. Please don't. I don't want this screen filter. I know a lot of people last week in the comment section commented about how they really liked this screen filter, and I didn't really get a lot of reasons as to why people liked it. It's new, it's different, it's interesting. I can understand that from that perspective. But for mine, though, I want to see the anime as clearly as I can possibly see it. Right now, it looks super grainy, and almost like I'm seeing it through like a really opaque cloth, and I dislike it so much. I hate it. I wish they would do something different. And generally, I just want more of it. I want more of this anime. And I'm going to put that in the negatives, because I want more of it, and I'm not getting more of it. I have to wait till next week, you kidding me? As for some theories, I think that Kuchi, interesting name, will have to use leftover troops to defend against the Mongols, and because of that, I think we're going to get a huge, really intellectual battle where he's going to have to use his people and the people that's left. He's going to have to probably use he's probably have to save the princess, keep her safe, because she's technically, the king guy, the ruler, is now dead, and she's the next in line, because the brother died as well. So he's probably going to have to keep her safe. And while that's happening, he's probably going to fall in love with her or something. It's weird. She's 17, I know, but, we're talking about, this is long time ago, so who cares? I mean, it's going to be pretty cool the way he's going to go out these battles and fights, and I think we're going to get one of those anime where they're all going to die one by one. I really do, and I think probably the main guy's going to die as well, because it goes full circle, right? You start off with people that were meant to die, and at the end, they redeemed themselves, but they redeemed themselves in death. And I think that's a pretty cool story to tell, and I'm always interested in those stories because, while, yeah, all the characters die, it feels final. It feels like you don't need a sequel. It feels like everything's been done, it's all completed, and you witnessed the badass last hurrah for these characters, and I love that. Or they can go the route of killing the princess and have a big emotional moment at the end that's kind of forced because this is a 13-episode anime and they don't need to do that, so please don't do that. Or we can have all the characters dying every couple of episodes, and at the end, they save Tsushima and redeem themselves. Or you can just, have the main people live happily ever after. Either way, it would be really hard to ruin this series, in my opinion. What I've seen so far of this episode and episode 1, this is going to be a great anime. This is going to be one of the best anime of the year, probably for me, because I like these kinds of stories where it's not just, slice of life, cute girls and life shit. It gets boring. This stuff's interesting because it's a story. It's trying to do something here, and I like it a lot. So with that being said, if you enjoyed this video, I kind of stuttered and slurred my words throughout most of it. I do apologize. It's a little hot in here, and it's a little late. I'm not supposed to be doing this video right now, but I gotta get it done. I'm a little behind time here, and taking a more personal time for this. So, with that being said, make sure you give this video a like if you enjoyed it. If you didn't, give it a dislike. I don't really care, as long as you're interacting with the video. Speaking of interaction, put down in the comments what you think. Once again, and subscribe. And when you subscribe, ring the bell, because that's important. And, well, I guess just know that I appreciate you all. I say it at the end of every video, but I say it for a reason. It's not because it's part of my daily routine of when I do an outro. It's because I truly mean it. So I thank you all for, watching my stuff. It really means a lot. I'll see you guys later. Thanks for watching this video. Can't wait for next week. It's going to be an awesome series. Bye-bye.